On Wednesday, the halftime show. Bill Gunner, Captain David Ayer, Tyler Head still, he's day-to-day. He's battling the voice injury right now. And, again, when you do radio of any kind, not having your voice tends to be a bit of an issue. So we're going to give him time off to heal and get better, and he'll be back with us, but it won't be today as Tyler dealing with again, still voice issues. And, yeah, that's important around here. You got to have your voice. So we'll carry through. I'll get you through the next 3 hours. We got a loaded show, a lot to get to. Transfer portal has gone absolutely insane, not just for South Carolina. There's an issue taking place out in Washington that I think could be maybe the turning point for how we handle NIL contracts and rev share and whatever's going on. I'll tell you about that later on this hour with DeMond Williams, the quarterback at the University of Washington, and what's going on with him. It actually somewhat ties into the University of South Carolina playing basketball with LSU last night, of all the crazy things. And we'll get to that. South Carolina last night, they go into Baton Rouge, and I knew something like this was going to happen, and I kind of joked about it. I was joking yesterday. I was like, well, maybe they'll walk into the Pete Maravich Center, and they'll love that arena, and they'll shoot really well. And lo and behold, boy, did they ever shoot really well, especially compared to what they had been shooting. And I had said, look, 18 conference games, this is a team that you're not going to hold them down every game. They're going to have some games where they rise up and shoot the ball exceptionally well. They are good shooters. For whatever reason, they're not going in. It's been kind of hard to explain that, and I don't even mean that just from the standpoint of wins and losses. I just mean that from the standpoint of, look, teams that, historically speaking, throughout their career, shoot a little bit better against quality competition than what they've been doing. And last night, down in Baton Rouge, they got it going, and they got it going quick and jumped absolutely all over the Tigers down there and ended up running them. It appeared to be running them out of the building. And then the second half came around, and it got a little more interesting than it really needed to be. But at halftime, it was 50-25. South Carolina would be outscored 43-28 in the second half, but it is irrelevant because they win 78-68. A lot of it behind Elijah Strong, who was phenomenal last night. When guys have 30 points, one of the first things I typically do is go, okay, what was their shooting percentage? How many shots? What did they have to do to get to 30 points? Well, Elijah Strong didn't have to do a lot. 15 shots. He made 10 of them. 4 for 4 from three-point range. 6 of 6 from the foul line. Grabbed 4 rebounds. Dished out 3 assists. Committed 5 fouls. Good job. Really filling up the box sheet. Had 2 steals. Also had 2 turnovers. I mean, he really filled it up in 25 minutes of action, which, again, efficiency-wise, not bad. Yeah, to do all that in 25 minutes is a pretty strong box score for Elijah Strong last night. And he leads the way with 30 points. Gamecocks, as a team last night, they got off to a hot start and finished the game 12 of 21 from three-point range. Meechie Johnson was 3 of 6, including a couple logo threes. One disappointing moment where he lost track of how to count to 10 and get the ball across half court, and you could see him on TV saying, I didn't know. That might be one where you just simply look at the bench and say, my bad, my fault, and you leave it at that. But Meechie had a good game last night. Big number for me when I look at Meechie is assists to turnovers. And last night, 6 assists, 1 turnover. That's a great number for him. Gamecocks as a whole last night, 17 assists to just 6 turnovers. Great job of distributing the ball, moving the ball around, finding the open guy. But I start to look, all right, who is your legit point guard? And that would be Meechie Johnson, Mongolian Mike, or I like better, the son of the Shark. It was a good broadcast last night. If you didn't see that, his father obviously being the first Mongolian player ever to play for the Harlem Globetrotters and was known as the Shark. And I like Mongolian Mike better, known as the son of the Shark. But he had 3 assists last night, no turnovers. Meechie had 6 assists and 1 turnover. So you get the 2 guys who were doing the vast majority of the ball handling last night, and 9 assists and 1 turnover. It's a pretty solid night. And that's almost, to me, as good as shooting 12 of 21, 57% from three-point range. And on top of all that, one thing that South Carolina basketball, it seems like historically has not done well, it's kind of like the offensive line. We talk about the offensive line in the preseason. Oh, they're going to be better this year. This is the year they're actually going to block. What feels like in basketball, it's like, oh, this is the year we're going to make free throws. This is a good free throw shooting team. Well, not historically. But this year, South Carolina's pretty darn good at the line. And last night, 16 to 21, 76% from the foul line. Michi was 8 of 10. Elijah was 6 of 6, as I mentioned. Kobe Knox, 2 of 4. Those were the three main guys. Miles Studi took one free throw. He was responsible for the other one. But the Gamecocks last night go into Baton Rouge. And, look, all it matters to me, all that win does is keep us engaged for another game. There's still 16 more of these things, and they're going to win some and they're going to lose some. That's not going to be the only hot shooting night for the Gamecocks. They're going to have 2 or 3 more where the opposition just can't figure out an answer for them, and then it opens up the lane to driving the ball and good things happen. But last night was a little more in line with what I think Lamont Paris expected when he put this team together, a little more in line with what I expected when I saw this roster and said, okay, how do you have a path to winning a lot of ball games to put yourself in contention for the NCAA tournament? That's one game. It's one game, but you got to start somewhere, and last night was a good start. And then they'll get Georgia, again, at home Saturday at 2 o'clock, and we'll talk more about that coming up later today. It was a great night of college basketball. I love college basketball. I love the winter and having multiple games on. I mean, I had both TVs going last night. I had South Carolina and LSU on the big TV. I had Louisville and Duke on my smaller secondary television. That was a great game. You had Kansas and TCU, which went to overtime, which was a phenomenal game. You had also Texas and Tennessee, and Tennessee blew out Texas. I was watching Texas Tech and Houston last night, number 14 and number 7, maybe the game of the night, and that was a phenomenal one. Houston wins that one by 4. I even stayed way up into the wee hours of the morning watching Nevada and San Diego State. I know maybe I should develop a life, or I should just get healthy where I can go back to sleep at an earlier time. But it was a great night of college basketball. And that doesn't even count the game that we're going to talk about later on today with Mike Morgan, who I believe has now made it out alive of Neville Arena on the Plains down in Auburn, where Auburn hits a buzzer beater to win the game, to which the official said, yes, that counts, only to go to the review monitor and be like, nah, we're not going to count that one. You're going to lose by 2. And as you would expect, Auburn basketball fans did not handle it well. So we're going to be under the assumption that when we speak with Mike Morgan coming up today in about an hour and 20 minutes, that he is not still hiding for his life. Not that it's his fault, but that he's not still hiding for his life at Neville Arena down on the Plains as angry Auburn fans search high and low for anybody they can blame for last night's debacle. That is now back-to-back games where they have very simply should have won and did not. So the Stephen Pearl era not off to a great start down there after the father, Bruce Pearl, retires. But it was a great night of college basketball. It'll be another really great night, by the way. Tonight, you got a great SEC matchup with Vanderbilt and Alabama. And if you want to get into a little basketball, you can do that. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk SEC basketball again coming up with Mike Morgan at about 1:30 today. Coming up at 12:30 in about 20 minutes, trying to keep up with the South Carolina transfer portal, let alone the nation. And South Carolina was wild and woolly yesterday. Commitments. So the Gamecocks finally start landing a few commitments, some offensive line commitments, a defensive line commitment that we discussed while we were on air. Jordan Thomas, we talked with J.C. Sherbert a little bit about that and what that meant. They also landed a commitment from offensive guard Hank Purvis out of Purdue. So a good pick, I guess. I have no clue. I don't know what these pickups are. And my natural robotic self is to be like, good pickup. Yeah, he's new. Hadn't messed up in a Gamecock uniform. Yeah, that's a good one. I got no idea. And you don't either. I don't know. How do you, I mean, literally, how in the world can you prove to me that so-and-so, whoever you want to, Carter Miller, the other offensive line commitment, Hank Purvis, is better than Travon Ball, Tree Babalade, Josiah Thompson? All they can do is get offensive linemen in here and let Coach Clem, Randy Clements, work with them, and let's see what they look like on September 19th. I think it's the 19th, against Mississippi State. That's all that. I have zero clue what South Carolina is getting out of the portal. I like Jordan Thomas, the defensive tackle yesterday, because he's got 3 years of eligibility. He's 6'6", he's 310 pounds. He looks like a raw prospect who just needs to be coached. It'd be a guy like if he left South Carolina, we'd be like, yeah, he didn't really contribute. Who really cares? But one man's trash is another man's treasure, and Georgia's trash in this situation, Jordan Thomas, is our treasure. Hank Purvis, Carter Miller, Central Florida, Purdue's trash, our treasure. But how good are they really, and what does it do for this football team? I don't know. I have zero clue what you're getting out of the transfer portal. And you don't either. And I'll openly call myself out on this. I'll go on the X machine on Twitter. Hey, good pickup. I don't know. I have no clue. But we'll talk with Hale McGranaham coming up here in about 18 minutes at 12:30 today. And get his take on that. Gamecocks pursuing another defensive back, Quaysheed Scott, out of Lake. I think he was out of Lake Marion or maybe Marion, and has been at Kentucky. We'll talk about that. Some other prospects that the Gamecocks are in on. Look, again, the Gamecocks everything is moving fast and furious because remember, the transfer portal is only open really for another 9 days. So it's speed dating at its absolute finest. I mean, this is speed dating at its absolute finest. Hey, how are you? What's your name? What do you like? What are your interests? Oh, okay, good. Let's go. Let's figure this thing out. Maybe we'll get married. I've never been on a speed dating situation. I've done the dating apps, which is wild and awkward, and you can tend to get catfished a little bit. But I don't know how it necessarily works to feel comfortable with who you're landing and how you feel about the chemistry of your locker room and what that player is bringing to your program. So, do you watch more film on him? Is it more film-based? Is it more gut instinct? A really interesting question for a lot of coaches out there who are having to make these quick decisions on prospects to try and build a roster or replace guys who have left. And South Carolina, obviously, on the offensive line in particular, trying to replace several guys there. So you're looking at who you're going to take and how they can come in and help. And again, is Carter Miller or Hank Purvis better than the other three? I got no idea. I have zero idea. But we will find out. That's for darn sure. And that's the good news. We will find out. We just got to be patient and wait. So we'll talk with Hale McGranaham coming up again in about 15 minutes on the South Carolina transfer portal. Mike Morgan to talk both South Carolina and SEC basketball. We'll kind of give you a preview of what the Gamecocks face over the next 16 conference games. And then coming up at 2:15 later today, I think I said Morgan was at 1:30. He's actually at 1:15. But coming up at 2:15 later today, we have Eric Edholm, who will join us, and we'll talk some NFL playoffs and the Carolina Panthers. Fun to see the Panthers back in. Also, we'll get into a little bit of coaching changes there. John Harbaugh and the Ravens parting ways the other day after 18 years. We'll discuss that a little bit with Eric Edholm coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. So a busy show. Lots to get to. Transfer portals, college football playoffs, college basketball, and NFL playoffs. A lot to get to if you want to weigh in today. 803-404-6100. You can light us up on the text machine, or you can give us a phone call. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Captain David Ayer. It is the halftime show. It is Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for over 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And let me tell you something, you don't be the leader for 30 years without doing something exceptionally well, and that's what Mid-State Roofing has done. They've taken care of their customers, whether you're here in Columbia, whether you're in Florence or Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Charleston, Spartanburg, Greenville. You get the point. All over this phenomenal state we live in, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you. But you got to give them a phone call first. And the great news, they're there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready to help you with a maintenance contract and make sure that your operation, home, business, whatever, stays dry and running long into the future. That phone number to give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Call Mid-State Roofing today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. All right, I don't remember if I submitted this one to Tyler for new bumper music or not, but good one. New music. How about that? As we kick off January the 7th, 12:20, as we roll along. Coming up here in about 10 minutes, we'll be joined by Hale McGranaham of thebigspur.com to get his take and get updates on what precisely is taking place. I am researching right now. I've been sent a text out there indicating something with Josiah Thompson, but I think actually it's just telling Josiah to run it back one more time. I don't think it's actually anything from Josiah Thompson. At least as of last night, we'll ask Hale McGranaham about this. As of last night, Josiah Thompson was not officially in the transfer portal, to my knowledge. These things are, again, very fluid. This transfer portal stuff is ramping up each and every year. And I'm going to get into the story coming up at the end of the hour on what is taking place at Washington. And if you are ready to blow this thing up, you're pulling for the University of Washington right now. And what is going on with DeMond Williams Jr., as he appeared to have signed a deal with Washington to return, which, I mean, just saying that out loud and you having to hear that is stupid. It's ridiculous. This is not college. This is not what we grew up on. Bear Bryant and Gene Stallings and all the old coaches are rolling in their grave when I say something to the effect of this quarterback signed a deal to return. But that's where we are. That's where we are. But this issue out at Washington where DeMond Williams apparently signed a deal with the Huskies last week to return to Washington and be their quarterback. Williams is a pretty good little quarterback out there. You probably don't know much about him because of the fact that he plays at Washington. But this past year, he threw for 3,065 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He also rushed for 611 yards and 6 touchdowns. He was Big Ten honorable mention, completed 69.5% of his passes, and signed a deal to go back. Now, that's the other part about the transfer portal and NIL and rev share, and this has become ludicrous and obscene, and we don't know what these deals are, and we don't know how enforceable they are. But Washington's going to try and enforce this little situation here where now, yesterday, I should say, DeMond Williams announces his intention to transfer. Well, here's where it got really interesting last night. A lot of people speculated he was going to go to Syracuse. As this was happening last night, Sam Leavitt, Arizona State quarterback transfer, was on campus at the South Carolina LSU basketball game with Lane Kiffin. And as all this is happening, the narrative switched from DeMond Williams is trying to get out of Washington to go to Syracuse that, hey, LSU may have offered DeMond Williams upwards of, again, speculation, mind you, reckless speculation by all parties, me included for saying it on the air here, but let's play the game. But that LSU offered DeMond Williams $6 million to come be quarterback at LSU, and DeMond Williams went, oh, okay, that's more than Washington's paying me. Here I come. So while Sam Leavitt is sitting next to Lane Kiffin, news also breaks that Sam Leavitt's going to visit Tennessee to check out their quarterback situation, and that DeMond Williams is actually coming to LSU to be their quarterback. It's hilarious. You actually have to kind of laugh at it. And South Carolina's trying to play this game. Clemson's trying to play this game as well, where you're dealing with these kids who it's not about the school, especially the upper tier kids. It's not about who the coach is. It's not about how can you develop me and get me to the pros. It's all about the money. It is literally all about the money. And that's why I said yesterday, and it was interesting, JC Sherbert disagreed with me on the product on the field. I still believe that the product on the field is as good as it's ever been. I think the product is phenomenal. I love watching college football. But this offseason stuff, man, and you see stuff like this happening at Washington and around the country, and guys are re-signing. It's not what the game was all about. So we'll continue to monitor that. South Carolina right now is trying to rebuild an offensive line and its roster as it pertains to next year in 2026. And coming up here in a few minutes, we'll talk with Hale McGranaham about that. Now, the Gamecocks yesterday, as I mentioned, they pick up a couple offensive linemen. Carter Miller out of Central Florida. And, this guy, look, me personally, I'm not a talent evaluator anymore. Can't say that I really was back in my day with 24/7 Sports, but I went around and acted like it. The first thing that jumps out to me is this is his third school in 4 years. I don't like that. But that's also the world we live in now. But when a kid's bouncing around from school to school to school, it kind of it's the first thing that raises my eyebrow. Hank Purvis, another big offensive, and big, I mean physically large, like big fella, 6'5", 365 pounds. I don't know how good he is, but when I say a big lineman, I don't mean like, oh, big pickup. I mean he's a physically big boy, 6'5", 360 pounds, began his career at UNLV in 2024, and then went to Purdue last year where he played left guard and right guard. So you pick up two guys yesterday. They'll come in. They'll compete. You're fighting and contending for more in the transfer portal. We'll see how that works out. I do like, and by the way, I like the fact when you go to the portal, if there's something that I like about what South Carolina seems to do, generally speaking, not all the time, but they seem to get guys who have lots of eligibility left, which I like about that. Like Monkel Goodwine had some eligibility. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy had eligibility. I know Demetrius Knight did not, but look at Sean Murphy. He's coming back for a second year. Justin Okoronkwo had multiple years of eligibility. Brandon Cisse has left for the NFL, but he had eligibility remaining. You're not just taking one-year assassins. And I think personally, that's a good way to go about doing it, being a little more selective. Now, yeah, you take a guy here or there who's going to come in and play 1 year. Demetrius Knight's a perfect example of that, and it worked out great. There's a few others that we could point to and say that's a good, Kamar Bell and Torricelli Simpkins 2 years ago, I guess, if you will, on the offensive line. But I like taking guys who you can develop over time, where they're that way. If they're struggling a little bit, maybe you can toy with what you're doing with them a little bit and get a little more out of them. And Jordan Thomas is one of those guys on the defensive line, and why I really like him, because of the fact that I don't feel like the pressure is on for him to come in and perform right off the bat in year one. Preferable he does, but if things aren't clicking right away for him with Travion Robertson, you hope that he's willing to stick it out, stick around, and allow some development to take place here at this university and not feel the need to go jumping and go somewhere else. But I do like that about one of the ways South Carolina goes about attacking the transfer portal. Coming back, we'll catch up with Hale McGranaham. We'll talk more about this and get a lot of updates. South Carolina's even in the market for a junior college quarterback. We'll get an update on that. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Captain David Aaron, joined next by Hale McGranaham of thebigspur.com. All right, we got new bumper music, and I'm loving it already. Welcome into the program. 12:34 on your Wednesday afternoon, January the 7th. Joining us now live from the transfer portal where the winds are whipping, dust is flying, and hopefully he's got his shades on in the dark. Hale McGranaham, who I do not envy you, Mr. McGranaham. I've covered recruiting and signing days. You have too. What I'm witnessing is unlike anything I've ever seen. Let's see, I started recruiting and really involved in recruiting in about 2008, and having to stay in touch with sources and recruits and coaches and so forth and so on. How much have you seen this evolve on your end of things over the last 10 years?
You know, Bill, it's funny you say that, and I was thinking earlier this morning, like it feels like it's back in those days covering the last few weeks leading up to signing day in February when coaches were out on the road or hosting recruits for official visits or what have you. Like this to me is very similar to that, in that it's just like nonstop wake up, work, and try to live some life before you go to bed and do it all over again the next day. So in a lot of ways, it's very much like that. Now, there are some obvious differences with it being transfer guys who've already played in college. So there's that aspect of it. And now there are agents and money, which I guess there was money back in those days to a degree, but not like it is now, obviously. So, yeah, it's, to me, just from doing my job, it kind of feels like that, just a nonstop for a couple of weeks going. So, yeah, very, very, very similar that way, I think.
Well, we got to rifle through a lot of information, and you're a busy man. Let's start real quick. I hate to bury this because it's good news. Anytime a kid commits to the University of South Carolina, great. Anytime that it's a local kid, phenomenal. Stone Furry. If that name sounds familiar, it is the son of wide receiver coach Mike Furry. He was originally at Chapin. Where did he play at this past year? Was he at Dutch Fork? Is that right?
Dutch Fork, that's right.
Okay. He is now, I guess, officially committed. Is this a preferred walk-on? Is this a scholarship? But South Carolina has picked up a commitment for, this is almost unheard of, by the way, Hale, at this point, the 2026 class, this class, meaning he'll be on campus next year, but Stone Furry coming to South Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know the details of what his scholarship situation is, but yeah, he's committed. He announced it, I think, on his Instagram about half an hour ago. I got a heads up that he was going to be jumping on board here soon. So yeah, he's gotten several college offers along the way. Smaller school types like Miami of Ohio, Marshall, Gardner-Webb, Murray State. Places kind of like that. So he's had a lot of options. I think maybe 7 or 8 offers. So he's had some options and gone through this process, and ultimately wants to stay close to home and get a chance to play for his dad, which is I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll see if he ever contributes or gets on the field, but certainly some really good stuff there at Dutch Fork at Chapin 2 years ago at Dutch Fork. He was in the North-South game, if I remember correctly, and I saw him catch a touchdown there. Is that right?
That I do not know.
Okay.
I was probably too busy getting ready for this transfer portal stuff, even back that early in December.
That's all right. I believe that's right. I believe I saw that with on the news. But kudos to him. All right, now the stuff that you're really keeping up with. Let's get the latest here at 12:38 on a Wednesday. Quayshad Scott, I believe, defensive transfer from Kentucky, is now a guy that you are monitoring very closely. And who else are you really trying to keep an eye on today that is here in town or that you think could be nearing a decision?
Yeah, Quayshad Scott, who's from Marion, South Carolina originally, was somebody who South Carolina tried to flip from Kentucky out of high school. He had the Kentucky offer, committed to them that July, I guess, going into his senior year, and Carolina finally offered him in September, October, and it looked like they were going to be able to pull it off, but Mark Stoops kind of at the last minute was able to convince him to stick to it, so he signed with Kentucky and ended up being their starter at nickelback this past season, had a good season. So he announced, or was in the portal officially, I should say, on Monday night, I guess it was. And by yesterday, mid-afternoon, he was at South Carolina for a visit. So I think things are in a good spot with him, needless to say. Bryant Williams, offensive tackle from Louisiana, has been on campus since yesterday. I think I like where things are at with him. And Carolina had several guys in yesterday. In addition to those two, Randy Pittman, the tight end out of Florida State, and Nitro Tuggle, receiver from Purdue, and Paul Mubenga, the LSU offensive lineman. So things are moving at a rapid pace. There could be more guys who visited yesterday that we don't know about publicly yet. Because as we saw yesterday when those commitments started going for Carolina and Jordan Thomas jumped on board, that caught us off guard. Didn't know at that point that he had visited and was that heavily on the radar for Carolina.
What is your take on let's jump to that, jump back to that, the Jordan Thomas? I like it. 3 years of eligibility, and I was mentioning before you came on, I like it when South Carolina takes guys, kind of high upside guys who have lots of years of eligibility, and by, I guess, lots, 2 or 3. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy comes to mind. He appears to be working out. Jalen Brown, on the other hand, had eligibility, and now he's transferring out, so it works both ways. But your thoughts on the Jordan Thomas pickup and how that could impact the team next year?
Yeah, similar to Monkel Goodwin, too, who came in from Alabama and didn't play a ton and ended up being a starter and had a good senior season this past year. So, yeah, with Thomas, they heavily recruited him out of high school. Pete Limbo, his Northeast ties, he was very involved because Thomas is originally from New Jersey. So Pete Limbo was a big part in that recruitment, and Jimmy Lindsey, who was the defensive tackles coach as well, certainly had a hand. And Carolina got Thomas down for some visits. And I want to say he's got family, maybe his grandparents, I can't remember exactly who it is, but family members who are in the state of South Carolina live somewhere within relatively close proximity to Columbia, certainly closer than New Jersey. So, yeah, they got him in for a camp, got him back for a spring game. Then I think that was a spring game before his senior year. And so he was going to take an official visit that June to Carolina, but ended up committing to Georgia during his official visit and never made it back to Columbia until this past Monday, from what I understand. So 3 seasons of eligibility to play, and a guy that's got a lot of upside and some untapped potential that maybe he can start to tap into this fall.
Let's go with a guy, correct me if I'm wrong, I was mentioning this prior to you coming on, Josiah Thompson. Now, you have put a report out that may not be a done deal with South Carolina. I know that's something you're tracking. Is he officially in the transfer portal? Where do things stand with current offensive tackle Josiah Thompson, and what you think may come of his situation?
Yeah, so anyone who's read what I had on the Big Spur yesterday afternoon, I have not heard anything beyond that since I put that out. So I probably should follow up with it. But from what I understand, he was officially going to be in the portal like yesterday or today. I can't remember that specific detail, but there's the period where a guy tells the school, hey, I want to transfer, and the school has up to 2 business days to put his name in and process it, and then his name appears in the portal, and folks can legally come after him. As far as I know, it has not officially popped up. I have not seen anyone report that. I have not been told one way or another by the folks that I talk to at various levels. So definitely keeping an eye on it, and hopefully I can get a little update for folks on the Big Spur here sooner than later.
Yeah, make sure you follow Hale. He is grinding him and Alex and John Whittle, who we had on yesterday, and trying to keep up with it. It is, folks, it's tough. I can tell you, having been there. I saw Hale, I think it was last night, putting out a top 3 there of bourbons. All looked fantastic, Hale. Great decisions that you put out on your, I believe it was on the Big Spur. So make sure you go and follow him there. I got about a minute left, with a little less than a minute. Real quick, not transfer portal, junior college. This is the old school route. South Carolina's pursuing a quarterback. Give us a little bit of information on what's happening there.
Yeah, Malachi Marshall, who played at Iowa Western this past season, still there. He's going to finish the spring semester there, so it's not a real not a situation where things have to play out real quick. He started his college career at Stony Brook in 2024 as a freshman. played a little bit that season. Had a real good JUCO season this past fall. But he's originally out of South Point High School in Rock Hill. Was a really good high school player, and South Carolina's going to get him down for a visit here a week from tomorrow. So I guess it's the 15th. He's going to visit South Carolina. It's an unofficial, non-official visit. He does not have an offer from Carolina, but maybe there's something that could be coming together there at some point down the road. He's got Marshall and Kent State offers. Both those schools offered earlier this week. So, South Carolina's got 3 scholarship guys on the team, and typically you want to have more than 3, and maybe there's a potential fit there with him. Certainly a talented player who's got a couple years of eligibility.
Hale, we got to hit our break here, but we always appreciate it. Too much information for one segment, but we'll have you back on shortly and discuss with that. I appreciate it today, buddy.
Yep, thank you.
Take care. Hale McGranaham with the BigSpur.com. We'll come back and wrap up the hour after this. 803-404-6100. Thank you to Hale, McGranaham for joining in. Texter weighs in. Well, your one man's trash, another man's treasure analogy is pretty ignorant. Was D. Knight Charlotte's trash? Was Kyle Kennard's Georgia Tech's trash? Were Lenore Sellers that he transferred in Carroll? Must be text to talk. I don't know. Yeah. Look at Kennard. Come on. Do better. Do some research. Kennard and Knight weren't exactly high-profile transfers. And if you don't think, did you pay any attention to what people were saying about Lenore Sellers this year? It ain't like Lenore Sellers was loved by this fan base. There have been times this year people were talking about moving on from Lenore Sellers. Now, was it the minority? Was it the vocal minority? There's some of you out there, and to this texter's opinion, who were like, well, we really got to move on from Lenore Sellers. He's never going to be the guy. I see it every day. I saw it every day during the year with text messages coming in. You know, does Lenore Sellers need some development? Yes. Yes. Is Kendall Briles going to be the guy that can help him? I hope so. But the transfer portal is a wild, woolly area. Wild and woolly. And, you know, those two guys that you talk about, Kennard and Knight, by the way, were old guys. And it's a good thing, but they were old guys. I mean, they were 23, 24-year-old guys. You know, Jordan Thomas is a younger guy with a lot of upside who will have 3 or 4 I should have 3 years of eligibility. Who knows in this day and age with the NCAA, right? Like, we really don't know what the NCAA is going to do with eligibility. I'm following this basketball case pretty closely to see what kind of, if you haven't, there's a wild situation going on in college basketball right now with eligibility concerns about guys who have been in the NBA and or have been drafted by the NBA and now coming back to college, and how it pertains to European players who have played technically professional ball in Europe and now coming to America and playing. And the NCAA is going to be challenged on eligibility unlike anything we've ever seen before. But you know, the portal is just a wild and woolly place. And I go back to kind of what we're seeing, and I was going to bring up again the situation with DeMond Williams Jr. at Washington and what seems to be occurring. And I'll tell you, if you want to follow a situation that could change the course of what we're seeing with NIL and rev share and these contracts and the transfer portal and all that, this is the kind of the one to follow and see what transpires and how it plays out. Because of the fact, if you haven't seen this, if you're just tuning in, DeMond Williams is the quarterback at Washington and had a very good season here in 2025, threw for 3,060, I should say, a spectacular season, 3,065 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, rushed for 611 yards and 6 touchdowns, completed almost 70% of his passes. And according to, I guess, everybody, last Friday re-signed a deal with Washington to come back and play for them. And then as of last night, announced his intention, or I should say yesterday, announced his decision to transfer and put out that I have to do what is best for me in my future. And now Washington is going to pursue all legal action and legal avenues to enforce his contract that he has signed. And obviously, you know, at this day and age, the NCAA, again, what is being challenged legally, the NCAA is not winning a whole bunch of these cases. It's going to be really interesting to see how this kind of plays out, if indeed Washington follows through on it, if DeMond Williams Jr. follows through. Because I think we all agree, you know, however you want to address the players that are coming in or leaving, this isn't fun. You know, this isn't fun. The fun part of college football, one of the fun parts, was landing a prospect, good or bad, you know, 3-star, 2-star, 5-star, didn't matter, and watching that player develop and stay with your school over a period of time. You know, seeing a guy like a Captain Munderland who came in, who was not a highly thought of recruit, and developing into, you know, a very solid NFL player. And you can go down the line of guys that have come to the University of South Carolina that have done that. And you can go to other schools as well. But Yeah, this isn't fun, but how that situation plays out, I think, could be a turning point for the NCAA, for universities, how they enforce these contracts and what legal rights they have to force a player to stay at their university after these negotiations, if you will, and after re-signing. We'll come back. Hour 2 on the way. Mike Morgan due up in the next hour. Bill Gunner from my great friends at AAA Heating and Air. Now, if you've listened to me for the better part of 9 years, you know that I absolutely despise the cold. It is my arch nemesis. So right now, dealing with the cold, when we have cold weather, I rely upon AAA Heating and Air. The Cuts, just a couple years ago, they put in a brand new heating and air system at the Gunner household, and this past winter, or this winter as we're currently going through, it has kept the Gunner family nice and warm. And they'll do the exact same thing for you, and they'll help you with some absolutely great pricing and great options. How about this? Guaranteed financing. So if you're worried about financing, AAA Heating and Air has got you taken care of. A 15-year parts and labor warranty. That's right. You can guarantee that AAA Heating and Air is going to be there for you for 15 years and no payments or interest for 12 months. For more information, give them a phone call today, 803-677-1500. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 1 o'clock on a Wednesday as we try and monitor the transfer portal and not get sucked in all at the same time. Absolutely. It's interesting. It's interesting. And thank you to Hale McGranaham for joining us in the previous hour to give us about the most up-to-date information you could get regarding the portal and where things stand for the University of South Carolina. As I said, how I got into this industry was through recruiting and traveling and being in that industry. And it's evolved and changed so much. And I still like talking to guys like Hale and Chris and Wes. I was joking with Chris and Wes as they were walking out of here. Wes obviously if you haven't seen on social media, has a relatively newborn. And I was joking about sleeping because, this time of year when you're in that industry, it used to be for me that it was more of the recruiting and the visits this time of year. You would normally, I think about this time would be the first weekend of official visits. Might have been last weekend, depending on how the calendar shook out. But you were constantly having to work the phones and work recruits and work high school coaches and parents, and you were trying to get the scoop and know who was visiting where and what, and who's leading what. I remember doing the Marcus Lattimore recruitment. That was a wild situation where I'm trying to stay in touch with Marcus, and poor Marcus not only was dealing with my ignorant rear end, but you had other people like Phil Kornblut calling him. These kids, I'm not trying to make it sound like woe is me for these kids back in the day, but you'd have like 5 South Carolina media outlets trying to call him, 5 Auburn outlets trying to call him, 5 Georgia outlets trying to call him. That's 15 people right there. Then you got coaches calling him. Poor kid's just trying to live his life and get his senior semester over with, and here we are, a bunch of old, grumpy dudes calling these poor kids, hey, where are you going to college? What'd you think about that visit? Bunch of stalkers we are. Now it's the transfer portal. Now you're in this transfer portal deal, and there's a secrecy layer involved. South Carolina, some people didn't know Jordan Thomas had visited over the weekend to even commit. I don't envy those guys, man. That is Hale and Chris and Wes and all the people that are involved in that recruiting, man. I don't envy that, and I appreciate Hale McGranaham taking 15 minutes out today to join us because news is breaking. It's not just at the University of South Carolina. It's across college football. We're monitoring all of this stuff and watching everything that can happen, and it's kind of crazy to see, and it feels like, and I could be wrong on this, I think I kind of asked Hale this as we open. It feels like that this year more than ever, it has escalated. And at least what I'm seeing on Twitter, X, what I'm seeing there is that the financial aspect of it has escalated. And that teams are throwing out more money. And as one texter weighed in and said, man, it's just not fun anymore. As the college football is not fun. I think the product is great. And as I've said yesterday, we'll talk with Brad Crawford tomorrow about the college football playoff. As I've said, the product on the field I think is phenomenal. I love the product on the field. It's the product off the field. It's what's occurring that maybe is a little bit different. So we'll continue talking about that. Coming up here in about 10 minutes, though, we'll be joined by Mike Morgan. Last night, South Carolina basketball goes on the road, goes to Baton Rouge, and they get a victory, 78-68, 12 of 21 from three-point range. Elijah Strong goes for 30 points, a career high. He was phenomenal last night. And the thing about that performance for Elijah Strong last night is that it was efficient. Because you see guys who end up with 30 points, and they took 22 shots or 25 shots to get there. Elijah Strong did that last night on 10 of 15 shooting. And he was 4 of 4 from three-point range, 6 of 6 from the foul line. He was efficient last night. The Gamecocks as a whole, something they have not done this year, they were efficient shooters. They made their shots, and that is not what they have done through the first 14 games. Last night, at the moment, is the anomaly. Now, can they keep it going? I don't know. But the thing about last night, for me, I can't speak for y'all. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. I can't speak for you, so I'd like to hear. Does it keep you invested? Does it keep you intrigued? It does for me. I'll be at the game on Saturday. 2 o'clock against Georgia. We'll have coverage for you right here on 107.5 The Game, 1:30 pregame. Here, Casey and Derek. I'm still invested. I'm still intrigued. I still want to see this team. I am excited about Saturday. Georgia lost to Florida last night. It was a great night of college basketball across the board. We're going to talk with Mike Morgan in a few minutes about it. There was an Auburn, the Auburn-Texas A&M game was wild. And, again, I think Mike has officially gotten out of Neville Arena, hopefully. If not, he's hiding under a table somewhere as Auburn fans storm around. If you haven't seen the ending of that game, you need to. But for South Carolina last night, that's what it meant. And that is important, to keep your fan base engaged and interested. And I hope people turn out on Saturday. I think Saturday's supposed to be nice. I haven't looked at the weather. It's irrelevant. The game's indoors. But I've said this time and time, and I said it again. I'm going to bang the drum for this week. The area, I'm not a fan. You heard me say this yesterday, and I've made my point very clear on this. I'm not a fan of Colonial Life Arena, but I am a huge fan of the area around Colonial Life Arena because I think atmosphere can be everything. And you've got a lot of great little establishments around there to build a great pregame vibe that then lead to a game vibe, that lead to a fun arena, that lead to a loud arena. And I'd like to see that really developed at the University of South Carolina because I really, truly believe, having been to when I was, again, working for the Big Spur and having to cover the University of South Carolina and having been to Georgia and Kentucky and Auburn and Mississippi State, and where else did I go? Florida, all the schools back then. South Carolina has a unique home court advantage that I think really could be one of the best in the country with a winner. And I'd like to see on Saturday 15,000 people. It's probably unrealistic to ask because y'all just won't do it. You're just not going to do it. But I'd like to see 15,000 there on Saturday pulling for this team. Supporting them. Yeah, the kids are playing hard. They haven't played great. Let's be clear about that. I know they've got a 10-5 record, but until last night, I can't say that they played great. But they're playing hard. And they deserve that support from the fan base. And the season still has a lot of games to be figured out. Now, last night was a bit of how the season goes. They were hot early. They got about 25. LSU cut the lead to 6. Here's Lamont Paris last night about not letting that lead slip away.
They did a good job of that. I told Nietzsche as we came out of the timeout, or out of the halftime, and we're about to start, I said, hey, they're going to definitely have at least one run. I said one, actually. I said, they're going to have one run, and when it happens, just calm your guys down, get them. And the problem was they had 3 runs, and 3 pretty good runs. And so we were running out of timeouts quickly. But I will tell you that if we're ever fortunate enough to get a lead of 25 or whatever it was, you're better off having the game happen like this if you can still come out with a win.
Right.
We had to get the ball in bounds late. We had to make some free throws. And for a really good shooting free throw team, we missed some down the stretch, right? You need experience in that situation. A lot of things we had to do. Elijah had a big shot. Eli had a big shot in the corner.
Yeah.
There were a lot of plays that needed to be made in order that we could still come out of here with a win. And to the guys' credit, they made those plays.
803-404-6100. Jacob weighs in. If we beat Georgia Saturday, then I might tune back into the season. One great half, though, versus a decent team. 15 games in the season doesn't mean much. No. That's the problem. Go support them on Saturday. Tickets are cheap. Go support them. That's the wrong attitude to have. And, Jacob, I appreciate you weighing in each and every day. You and I disagree on this. I owe you a beverage. No, South Carolina needs to have fans there on Saturday. I don't know if I'm going to be the only person at this station to bang the drum for this. Saturday's really, by the way, should be a great day. We're going to have Cox by 90. Jeff will be on tomorrow with me. There's a great event going on for Steve Tannehill down in 5 Points. I want you to know about that. Open to the public. Coming up on Saturday at 4 o'clock after the game. Saturday should be a great celebration of South Carolina athletics. But, no, you go and you support this basketball team and you will them to victory. Go to several of the establishments down there at noon. Have yourself a beverage. Get yourself a pizza. Get yourself some food. Take your buddies. Take your kids. And get out and go to the freaking game. Basketball team deserves your support. Not if they win. Not when they win will I go. You go now. You get on the bandwagon early. You say you were there from the get-go. I get it. I get it. Trust me, I love college basketball, and I have not seen great college basketball from the University of South Carolina for 43 years. History doesn't give you hope that this thing is going to be great, but you got to start somewhere. Go support them. And if they lose, they lose. Who cares? But go support those kids. Go get down there and pull for them. Don't wait for them to become winners. Go will them to be a winner. Get down there and pull for that team on Saturday. Pack it out like the women pack it out. Get down there on Saturday. Don't wait. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. I'm going to give you a glimpse into SEC basketball. Mike Morgan last night was in Auburn for Auburn, Texas A&M. We'll talk about that and more. You're listening to the Halftime Show.
Got to be careful here.
Comes in for the win. Good if it goes. Got it! He got it! Unreal! Believable.
Keyshawn Murphy wide open. I mean, he would be the least likely guy I think you would think about this.
And making one heck of a call here. No good. No good is the call. And now Stephen Pearl can't believe it. And the celebration for Auburn is replaced by the celebration for A&M.
Those were the sweet tones of the one and only Mike Morgan last night on the call, on the plains, next to the court. Mike, do you still own your jacket? Did your hair get tousled a little bit? That was a mob scene, really, is what it was at the end of that ball game.
Man, it was, Bill. Good to talk to you. I know it's been a little bit since we've talked on air. I know we've talked off air quite a bit. It's funny. I was trying to find your Twitter handle, and I kept typing in Bill Gunther is what it showed up. I thought I typed in Gunner. It said it was Bill Gunther, who hosts a podcast. I'm like, well, that might be Bill. The name of his podcast is The G Spot. So I said, well, that might be a different kind of podcast altogether. So I'm glad I found you instead. I don't really think I want to. Yeah, I don't want to know what that guy's talking about. Anyway, no, it was crazy. I mean, you know this. Anybody who's been to the Auburn Arena, maybe checked out a Gamecock game there. The students are right on top of you. I mean, right on top of you, and they're right behind us. And look, that's a big part. They only seat just under 10,000. They've sold 77 sellouts in a row, but they only seat 9,100 and change. But what makes that arena such a great venue and such a hard place to win is that the students are incredibly into the action, and they're right there. They don't stuff them in the corner. They don't stuff them behind the basket. They put them right there, similar to Duke in some respects or Florida. So, yeah, during that time, and they have security personnel behind us and the students, but we can hear a lot, and at the end of that game, we could feel a lot, both good and then eventually bad. And then after the game, they decided to interview Bucky McMillan right in front of us and right with his back to the students, and that's when I got a little bit nervous and some debris hit the floor and everything else. But the whole night, Bill, was, I think I used the term Twilight Zone late in that game. Everything about that game was Twilight Zone-ish. A phenomenal shot, what looked to be a winner. The officials clearly called it a made basket before and then overturned it later. That's the subject of all kinds of controversy, and I mean, it's the most talked about video, I think, since the Zapruder film. Those last few seconds, it's everywhere on social media. But the other thing that, if you didn't watch the game itself, if you just saw that, what you didn't know is that Auburn was up 16 in the second half, dominating the game. They're much bigger, they're much more physical than A&M, who's kind of a runtish type team. They're just undersized, and A&M goes on a 33-6 run. And that is really where the game changed and ultimately turned. So one of the craziest ones I've called, the last buzzer beater I had on either an ESPN or SEC network of that magnitude was when Carolina, Jermaine Couisnard hits the running bank shot to beat Kentucky. And John Sunvold and I had the call of that. This was similar until they waved it off. So you never know when those are going to come. You hope it turns out okay, and you hope you don't screw it up.
That was, Auburn. We don't have enough time to deep dive into it. What I think may be transpiring there with Steve and Pearl, and you know how it is. Once you taste success, you don't want to go back. And Bruce Pearl, I loved Bruce. I'm a huge Bruce Pearl fan. I've met the man in person. I've dealt with him.
Yeah.
He probably do away with some of his tweets right now that are political, but I'm a big fan. And that guy can coach. And it's just hard to replace him, and trying to do it with his son, I don't know how that's going to work out there. Your thoughts on just being around that program yesterday?
Well, I'm right there with you about Bruce, and I've known Bruce for 15 years. I'm a fan of Bruce the person, and had a ton of respect for what Bruce did as a coach, both at Tennessee and at Auburn. And I mean, he's a Hall of Fame coach. So you're right. I don't care if it was Stephen Pearl or the hot mid-major coach or anybody else. It's just really tough to follow a guy like Bruce, who always took a program that couldn't get over the top, and he took it over the top. So that's obviously the job for Stephen Pearl. They, in a lot of ways, they look the same, talking about their teams now with the way they play, the kind of athletes they have. I still think Auburn's going to be a tournament team, but obviously it's a tough act to follow when your dad takes you to 2 Final Fours and multiple SEC championships. It's going to be an interesting year in the league, Bill. I don't know if there's a great team. I think there's a lot of good teams. I don't know if there's a great team. The league is not as good as it was a year ago, but it's still, if you believe Joe Lunardi, and he's usually right about these things, is going to lead the country again in NCAA tournament bids with 10. So top to bottom, you and I have been around this conference for a while. The SEC in the sport of basketball has just gone light years ahead of what it used to be. And anybody and everybody is all in. They're all spending money. They're all upgrading facilities, and they're all spending a bunch of money on coaches. So there's just no gimmies. There's just no gimmies in this. I'm sure maybe some LSU fans thought they had a gimme last night, and then South Carolina had other ideas. That's the nature of the beast in this conference, which top to bottom is incredibly deep.
Let's move to South Carolina for a second. I don't know. You can tell us when your next South Carolina game is, but what have you seen from the Gamecocks? And obviously, you were on the call last night for Auburn and A&M. But hearing and maybe seeing updates as the night went along on that Carolina game, were you surprised to see that they were making shots and that they were doing at one point? I mean, they're up 28 on LSU. Were you surprised to see that?
Yes. I mean, not surprised that they won. Remember, LSU is without its best player and their point guard. But I thought look, I don't think Carolina is as bad as some people want to say, and they are going to win some games. This is not the Missouri team of a couple of years ago that went 0-19. They're going to win some games, but what is clear to me, and you mentioned when do I have them? I have them back-to-back at Arkansas and at Auburn, so we're going to learn a lot. Next
week, by the way, for those wondering.
Yes. So I'll be in Fayetteville and then back on the Plains. What's abundantly clear to me and what I have seen, and I'll do a deeper dive when I prep to call those games, is that they are living and dying by the three more than they have in a long, long time. Because you don't have a Colin Murray Boyles. You don't have much of an inside game, and I don't think you have a guard that can just take over on the bounce. They're not wired that way. And so what I think Lamont Paris is trying to do, knowing that he's not going to out-athlete most opponents, he's going to try to win a skill game. And a skill game is always going to revert in some way or fashion back to shooting. And if you hit lights out, as Carolina did last night, you're going to beat some teams. You're going to beat some better teams. But if you don't do that, what I'm having a hard time figuring out, Bill, and maybe you focusing on this team as much as you do have a better idea, where is the strength? So let's just say, not having a bad day shooting, let's say Carolina's pedestrian on a given night. Let's say they shoot 32% from three and 43% overall from the field. Where are they going to win games in this league if those are the numbers? That's because some teams can win without having a great shooting night. Everybody wants a great shooting night, but some teams can win without that and still impose their will on the glass. They can still get to the free throw line a ton. I'm not sure where Carolina's strength is if it's not shooting the ball well from the perimeter.
We'll continue to monitor that, and we'll catch up with you maybe next week as you get set for Arkansas. And then you mentioned Auburn midweek next week, and then Auburn. Tonight, you got a really good one, Alabama and Vanderbilt. For those that want to tune in tonight and catch that one, that should be really exciting. That'll be 9 o'clock on ESPN. Number 13, Alabama. Number 11, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, maybe the surprise of the league. Your thoughts on that game tonight and what you're expecting?
For my money, and I'll probably eat my words, but for my money, the most talented teams in this league, and potentially the best two teams in this league, are Alabama and Arkansas. What about Vanderbilt, Mike? They're undefeated. Vanderbilt's a terrific story, and they're really good. And I'm a huge Tyler Tanner fan. I mean, you saw what he did against Carolina. He's been doing that against teams where he's just dissecting people, incredible court vision, a coach with the basketball, everything that you can want. I continue to be amazed what Coach Byington has done. Let's remember Jerry Stackhouse was there for a half a dozen years. They never got to the tournament. He's going to be 2 for 2, and he's got Vanderbilt playing like a top 10 team in college basketball. That was a quick turnaround, folks. He's the coach from JMU, in case you're wondering. So JMU has turned out Byington at Vanderbilt and Signetti at Indiana in football. Not a bad deal.
Yeah.
So I think either team could win it, but no matter what happens, I've seen the other two in person. I haven't seen Vandy in person yet, but I had them a lot last year. I think the most talented teams are Cal at Arkansas and Nate Oates at Alabama.
Mike, we always appreciate it, man. Where are you at this weekend?
I'm going to Ole Miss this weekend. They take on Missouri. Missouri just picked up a big win against Florida. I don't know if Coach Beard has the same squad. Well, I do know. He doesn't, and the question is, can he turn it around? Because right now it's been a little bit of a struggle going on in Oxford. So we'll have to wait and see on that. And then, like I mentioned, I'll be in Fayetteville and have a national radio game, Iowa State at Kansas next Tuesday, the 13th. So I haven't been to Allen Fieldhouse since I did a Gamecock game there with Dave Odom back in, I think it was 2006. So I'm looking forward to that. That's an awesome venue, as you well know. But really appreciate the time, Bill. And on a personal note, man, thoughts and prayers to you and everything you've been going through and continuing to stay strong, and so impressed with what you've been able to do, handling all that, and still being able to do great work on the show. So kudos to you.
Well, I appreciate it. I'll be in touch with you. I want to hear your impressions of Darren Peterson. He had 32 last night in that overtime win over TCU. He's phenomenal. He's fun to watch. I think, I'll say it, I don't care about the product off the court. It sucks. But the product on the court is phenomenal, and you had a great one last night. Glad you're okay. I don't know if you ever thought getting into television would be a dangerous job. Glad you're okay. And we will have you back next week to discuss that Arkansas game and also about your trip to Allen, Fog Allen.
You got it. You got it. Wild Bill, not to be confused with Bill Gunther.
Thank you.
Not that guy, but always appreciate it, and have yourself a great rest of the week.
You too. Take care. Mike Morgan joining us, who, again, safely makes it out of Neville Arena last night down on the Plains in a wild one. Great. College basketball, again, I think is really, really fun right now. It's a great product. There's a lot of great players that you can tune in and watch. And last night was a really good night across the board. Texas Tech and Houston, TCU, Kansas was phenomenal. Texas A&M, Auburn, absolutely phenomenal, and fun to watch the Gamecocks win. We'll continue talking about that and let you listen to a little more from Lamont Paris. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Captain David Ayer. It is the halftime show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. Let me ask you, when was the last time you really thought about your roof and keeping your operation dry and running? You probably didn't. You probably don't think about your roof unless you have a leak. And if that's the case, well, it's too late, quite frankly. Once you get the leak, you got to do something to fix it. Well, how about think about it ahead of time? Go ahead and call Mid-State Roofing today and line up a maintenance contract. At Mid-State Roofing, they'll provide the proper advice, service, and results with their professionals for the needs of your facility, and they're going to do it in a manner both safe and pleasing to you and your operation. The phone number to get in touch with them, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. From high-rises to hospitals, manufacturing to industrial, Mid-State Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee. So call Mid-State Roofing today. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
Coach.
Yeah, those was 2 areas. The first one was a pretty extended. It was pretty much the whole first half. Now, I know they had 16, and I think they scored 9 in the last whatever that was in the first half. But overall, that first half, really high-quality defense for the entire half. And then it got loose. They got hot. We got a little frazzled. And then when we needed it most, we came back and we got some. Even down at the end where it's like a 9-point lead and the 3 does something, we jarred the ball loose and got it. And just I thought we were active that way. It was, I think this was probably our best defensive performance of the year.
Those are the words of Lamont Paris last night as South Carolina picks up a 78-68 victory over LSU in Baton Rouge. Gamecocks now lead the all-time series with 21 victories over the Tigers. And it was a game in which South Carolina came out hot, came out blistering hot. And, was it a little more than maybe we expected? I have expected them to shoot better throughout the season. They haven't done that. I didn't expect them to shoot that well. That was maybe on the opposite end of the extreme, but they did it. And this, after the game, is Meechie Johnson talking about starting 9 for 9 from three-point range.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, this team can shoot the ball when we're hot like that. It was good to see the ball going like that. We needed that, especially on the road. I just think it shows what we're capable of. But we got to know, we do have to get better. It's just closing games and not letting teams come back and get in the game. But like I said, man, it's a game of runs. This is a hard place to play in. This is a great team. This is the SEC, man. It's a great win.
And, again, they come out hot, and it's led by Elijah Strong last night. 30 points. 10 of 15 shooting, and that is impressive to me. Credit where credit's due there. Again, I've seen people go for 30 points and have 20, 25-plus shots, and you go, okay, well, they were 7 of 25, and yeah, they hit some threes, and they did this, and they hit a couple free throws, and it's inefficient. But Elijah Strong, very efficient last night, 10 of 15, 4 of 4 from three-point range, 6 of 6 from the foul line. And as I've said, look, it's one game, and it's, we're not here to not praise, but to make South Carolina to be something that they're not just yet. But as I said, what this does to me, and if you want to weigh in, 803-404-6100, I'll go back to Jacob's text in just a minute. But what it does is it keeps me invested. It keeps me intrigued. And look, around here, we have had, not just under Lamont Paris, but, in the last 40 years of my life, we've had too many basketball seasons where by mid-January, the investment is minimal, the interest is minimal. And basketball around here, when we get to February, and if South Carolina's in the hunt, just in the hunt for a bubble spot or whatever, I mean, I'm not even talking about, like, having a great year. I'm just talking about in the hunt. Basketball is fun. It is really fun, and this fan base rises up for that. Now, I don't like that. I don't like the fact that it takes South Carolina having to be a win. I do get it, and I go back, and I appreciate Jacob weighs in a lot for us, text in each and every day. But Jacob had the text that I didn't like, and he said if we beat Georgia Saturday, I might tune back into the season. One great half, though, versus a decent team, 15 games in the season doesn't mean much. And I do get it. I'm not arguing on that. I don't like that mentality from the fan base. You got to get out and support this team. You got to be, not to sound too corny, but you got to be the wind at their back, the wind in their sails. I don't know, whatever. You get the point. I'm going to slow my roll before I say something I shouldn't. But this team deserves to have a fan base that gets behind them at that arena. And you got a 2 o'clock game on Saturday against Georgia. And Georgia's going to come in ranked. Georgia lost last night. They lost to Florida. Snapped a 7-game winning streak for the Bulldogs. And Georgia's good this year. Georgia scores a lot of points. And South Carolina still has flaws. The Gamecocks, this is still a flawed basketball team. But having a little bit of a home court advantage can help out. And they didn't have that last Saturday. Now, Vanderbilt's good, and I don't know if having a home court would have changed anything in the dynamics of that game. South Carolina couldn't defend the pick and roll to save their life last Saturday against Vanderbilt. But I would like to see Colonial Life Arena with 10 to 12,000 on Saturday. I'd love to see with 15, but I got to be realistic about what I'm begging for here. It's a 2 o'clock game. You can get out. You can go get a lunch early. You can hit the little establishments around. You can take the kids. Really kid-friendly down there. You can take the kids. You can take the family. You can catch a game at 2 and make it a really fun day and pull this team through. Look, that's going to be the thing about this team. If we go back to X's and O's, they're not as bad a shooting team as they have showed thus far. Last night, 12 of 21 from three-point range. Now, defensively, I have my concerns. Defensively, I question the athleticism of this team and whether they can defend one-on-one. Defensively, I question the physical toughness of this team down low and if they can rebound. They can prove me wrong on that. I'll gladly eat my words on that. But they've got to do better rebounding. They got to do better defending. Last night they were better. They were better for a half, 50 to 25 at halftime, and then gave up 43 in the second half. LSU got a little hot, but the Gamecocks really had gotten such a big lead. They were able to stave off the comeback and avoid some of the mistakes they were making because, again, you had a 25-point lead. But this is a flawed team. This is not a perfect team that has played 5 bad games, and that's the reason they have 5 losses. But I'd like to see on Saturday fans in that building rooting them on, giving them just that extra energy element. And again, it wasn't there last Saturday. And we'll see if that's what comes to fruition. You get that game, and then as you heard Mike Morgan, thank you again to him for joining us, as you heard Mike saying, then you get Arkansas, and yes, John Calipari, he's got himself a little squad out there. No shocker, right? John Calipari recruiting talented players. Huge shocker. Getting his teams to gel and play together are always his biggest issues because of the fact that there's a lot of newcomers, there's a lot of transfers. Former Gamecock Nick Pringle is obviously out in Fayetteville now and playing for John Calipari. He's still got several really good guards. So you get that game next Wednesday, and then that's followed up with a team that has just been an absolute thorn in the Gamecocks' side the last several years, and that is Auburn. The Gamecocks have not matched up well with the Tigers at all. They at least normally they match up with the 15, 14 other teams fairly well in the league. Auburn has been an absolute mismatch by and large for the better part of the last 5 years. And you got to go on the road to the jungle down there on the 17th. So, the schedule, it doesn't favor the Gamecocks. Last night on television, I had not seen the statistic until they popped it up. But last night they showed the statistic that South Carolina in all of college basketball plays the most difficult schedule, at least now. Strength of schedule rankings and everything can change as we go along with wins and losses. But as of last night, South Carolina currently has the strongest strength of schedule coming down the stretch over the next 16 games, which would be the next 16 conference games. So, hey, it's a tough road. Now, the SEC, as Mike said, and I agree with, the SEC is not the same basketball conference that they have been in the past. The SEC in basketball, the SEC basically looked at its 16 conference members and said, it's time for you to step up on this sport. We're going to need you to schedule better. We're going to need you to pay more money, put more money into it. We're going to need you to recruit better players. And the SEC teams obliged. And now you've got really, really, really good teams in this league. And that makes it a lot more difficult when you're trying to move your way, finagle your way up. And you go back, South Carolina, you think back to like Darren Horn's year, and they're 21-10. And they won a share of the Eastern Division at that point. Remember those days when we had East and West? But they won a share of the East and still didn't get in the NCAA tournament. And you think back, I think Frank Martin, the team before the Final Four run, was 24-9 and had 11 SEC victories, double-digit SEC victories. And because the league was still down a little bit, and I think that was 2015, 2016, because of that, they didn't get in the NCAA tournament. So the league's a lot different today than it was 10 years ago because of the way the SEC kind of demanded schools step up and start putting effort into it. 803-404-6100. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 2. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Tyler handles our bumper music. I had sent some suggestions a while back, and Tyler's handled the rest. And some of this, I'm like, okay, all right. Some of them, like, oh, I didn't know Tyler had that in him. So, kudos. We'll get Tyler back. He's battling an injury right now. He's got no voice. And for anybody who's had to talk for a living, when you don't have a voice, a little hard to do this job. Thankfully, I've never had a voice injury. And we'll get Tyler back here. He yelled at his Bulldogs a little bit too much after their loss to Mississippi. And we'll talk college football playoff a lot tomorrow as we get you set for Mississippi and Miami tomorrow night. I'm excited. I'm excited. And you know what? I can't tell you that I've ever liked Miami. I'd mentioned this yet. I got a brother-in-law, great guy. He's a Miami fan. It's a lot to deal with. I love him. I do love him. But, Miami fans, you're hard to deal with. Like, I don't know if you set out in an attempt to be hard to deal with. I don't know if you wake up every day like, I'm going to be obnoxious today. Where's my gold chain? Oh, where's my green jersey? Let me go be obnoxious to about 9 different people. I don't know if that's how Miami fans think. Let me walk around and show you that I know how to form the letter U with my fingers. You guys wake up on the wrong side of the bed, and you put us on the wrong side of the bed. That's why we don't like you. And if all that wasn't bad enough, Miami fans, if all that wasn't bad enough, you got Michael Irvin out here just acting a fool. Michael Irvin is the definition of, I've made way too much money, I'm way too popular, I'm better than you, and I'm going to take my belt off and smack this trash can around because I can do it, and I'm Michael Irvin and you're not. And I love it. Oh, I can't stand it. I love the arrogance. I love the bravado. Oh, I love it. So I'm excited about tomorrow night, Miami and Mississippi. It feels like in a way we're back to pulling for good versus evil. Like all that's right is Mississippi. Like they're dealing with this obnoxious bleep hole of a coach who left and went to LSU, and they're proving him wrong. And then you're dealing with Miami, who's again Miami. I'm looking forward to it. And we'll catch up with Brad Crawford tomorrow and talk more about it. And then Indiana, Oregon on Friday night. And that's going to be a lot of fun as well. That's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited about it. NFL playoffs coming up in about 20 minutes. Eric Edholm with the NFL Network, NFL.com, is going to join us. We'll talk about the Panthers. Good to see them back in the playoffs. Good to see them hosting. They don't deserve it. 8-9, you don't deserve to host a playoff game. But, hey, them's the rules, buddy. And they get a playoff game. And Matthew Stafford and the Rams come east to take on the Panthers there on Saturday afternoon. And we'll talk about that with Eric Edholm. 803-404-6100. Indulge me for a minute, please. Because I'm going to go on a bit of a rant. And this is where I can have my opinion and you can have your opinion. And I'm genuinely interested to hear where we stand on this. Because I don't agree with y'all on this. Or I don't agree with the ones who have texted in. But I appreciate you, and I'm glad you texted in. We're just going to agree to disagree. Because Jacob earlier, as it pertains to South Carolina men's basketball, Jacob texted in and said if South Carolina beat Georgia on Saturday, he might tune back into the season. One great half, though, versus a decent team, 15 games in the season, doesn't mean much. That's what he said. Jay from the Interstate, both people who text in a lot, I appreciate. They've followed me from the morning show to the afternoon show. And I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you weighing in every day. Jay from the Interstate said, play good basketball and win, and they will be supported. We have seen the stadium full, but what is this team to garner our support and time? I don't agree with that mentality. Now, that's fine if you want to be angry at them, and if you want to call in and you want to complain about them, and you want to talk about how bad they're, that's different. Don't tell me, I just don't like that fandom of, well, I'm not going to support you until you win. I don't like that. It's a bandwagon fan. You're not a fan. You only pull for them when they win. You don't stay invested. The fun part of being a fan is being a loser. Genuinely is. Ask all the Cubbies. the fun part about being a fan is being a loser. So that when you get to the top, it's sweet. You don't pull for a team. You don't show up only when they win. I'll never forget Trey Dyson a couple years ago. Kind of relevant, kind of irrelevant to the conversation. Trey Dyson, we're during the NCAA basketball tournament. Trey Dyson's in here, and Trey Dyson says, well, I don't watch the NCAA basketball tournament if South Carolina's not in it. I was like, my Lord, you've missed so much good basketball. Don't just be there when they're like, be there for the team when they stink too. Because when they win, it makes it more enjoyable. Don't wait for them to be a winner. Go support South Carolina basketball on Saturday, 2 o'clock. We'll come back. Hour 3 is on the way. It's the halftime show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. Have you thought about your roof lately? How about think about it right now? Right now, at this moment. Think about your roof, your home or your business. I don't care. Think about both of them. Is your roof ready to handle a severe rainstorm? Could it have a leak? Now you're thinking. Now the wheels are spinning. Oh, you don't know. You have no clue. You need to make sure it is ready, though. That's why Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's right. You might think about your roof at 9 p.m. tonight and think, oh, I should give them a phone call. Guess what? An on-call technician will be ready to help you. You might get a leak at 11:30 tonight. Well, guess what? If you call Mid-State Roofing, they will be there to help you. That's right. Mid-State Roofing is there for their customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's why they've been the leader for over 30 years in the industry, because they are built on customer service. Call Mid-State Roofing today, 803-356-1919. It is the 2 o'clock hour on the halftime show. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll talk some NFL for you. We got a texter who weighs in as it pertains to South Carolina basketball and basically saying, hey, I'm still invested. Got season tickets. I'm really invested. Have season tickets, but unfortunately, going to the Panthers playoff game on Saturday. Hey, good for you. And we'll talk a little Carolina Panthers coming up here at about 2:15 with Eric Edholm of NFL.com as they get set to host a playoff game against the Rams Saturday afternoon up at Bank of America Stadium. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Not a Panthers fan. I actually don't even like the Panthers, quite frankly. I'll probably pull for the Rams. But I do enjoy seeing them with a home playoff game. I do enjoy seeing them in the playoffs. I think that's actually pretty cool. It's got me a little more invested, intrigued in the wild card round. I think the wild card round is going to be really spectacular. I've watched a lot more NFL this year. I kind of attribute that, honestly, to my current health condition. And just not being as active on Sundays as I typically have been in the past. But I've watched more NFL, and I've really... It's grown on me, if you will. I've come around on the NFL a lot more, and I will admit I'm probably more excited for the wild card round than I've been in 40-some-odd years of living. The Panthers having a game, yeah, man, I love that. I'm all for it. I'm not pulling for them on Saturday, mind you. I'm probably going to play. Can't say I'm really pulling for the Chargers, but can't say I'm pulling for the Panthers. My life will continue to live on at 7:30 if they lose. And then you got I think a fun game, a great game. It's going to be cold. The Packers and the Bears on Saturday night. The only thing about that is, like, it's the third time they've played since, I think, December 7th, I believe is right. So a little bit too many Packers-Bears games over the last 5 weeks, but that's all right. Traditional rivalry. It's going to be a lot of fun. Packers, unfortunately, can't run out on the field without somebody sustaining a serious injury, and that takes away from this game just a tad. But that's going to be really fun. I love the early game on Sunday. Love it. Jacksonville and Buffalo, Josh Allen and Trevor Lawrence. I'm always, kind of like I was with Jadeveon Clowney, I'm always fascinated by Trevor Lawrence and where his career is going in Jacksonville because he was such a good college player, and can he live up to that hype and that standard in the pros? And he's trying. He's been a little up and down, obviously. But that's the 1 o'clock game on CBS. Looking forward to that. The mid-afternoon game on CBS is another really good one as well. And then you got the night game. The mid-afternoon game is the 49ers at the Eagles. Just feels like an old school class, like a warm, cuddly blanket I'm going to wrap myself up in. 49ers and Eagles, Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts. Eagles trying to build another Super Bowl run. And then the night game on Sunday is the Chargers and the Patriots up there in Foxborough. And again, probably if I had not watched more NFL this year, I'd be like, "Ooh, the Patriots are back? Really? Oh, okay, cool." Well, I've been watching them, and Drake May is maybe the next star quarterback in the league. He's coming along. He's developing. 1-year wonder. Dude who's going to develop into, I don't know, say slow down, Bill. He's not going to develop into the next TB12, but Drake May's coming along. And then you got Justin Herbert, and you got Jim Harbaugh out there coming in with the Chargers, and they're always entertaining. Chargers are wildly entertaining, and that's your Sunday night game. And then Monday night, I got to admit, Texans and Steelers. I guess there's a nostalgia for the Steelers. I don't know if you feel this way, but watching Aaron Rodgers last week against the Ravens lead the 2-minute offense down the field to get the Steelers in position to get the go-ahead score, and then the Ravens obviously driving back down and missing the field goal, and then that leads to John Harbaugh no longer being employed by Baltimore. And by the way, I don't know why about this, but I don't want to see John Harbaugh end up in New York for the Giants. I feel like that's career suicide. Just me. It doesn't feel like the Giants do anything ever well. And I know they've won Super Bowls in my lifetime. It just doesn't feel, something doesn't feel right about going to the Giants. And I'm like, John Harbaugh, if you go, I feel like that's the end of your career. We can all bid you adieu and watch you flame out there. But the NFL, I just very, very happy with it, very excited about the weekend. And, again, just happy that the Panthers have a home playoff game. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and I look forward to that. And coming up in about 10 minutes, we're going to catch up with Eric Edholm and discuss a little bit more about what's going on as it pertains to the NFL. If you want to weigh in this afternoon, 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in if you want to do so. Texter weighed in and said to use your argument, as we're talking about basketball, why would fans want to go see trash from Ohio State, Providence, South Florida, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Boston College? And I guess he's talking about the basketball program, because it's your program. That's why you go. It's your program. It's your team. You go and you follow your team. You pull for your team. Now, if you think they're trash, if you think they're bad, don't pull for them. Go find another team. I got a secondary team always in the wings, just in case. Just in case I need a little happiness to my left. Secondary team. I'm like the Dr. Pepper commercial with Western. I get a fun offense. Just going to keep them off to the side, just in case. No, you go pull for your team. And that's the point, talking about South Carolina basketball, is where this is developed. And I am interested in this, because where is that line of, I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not trying to talk down to any of you. Please don't take it that way. But where is the line in, well, I'm not going to go watch them or support them until they're winners, against they need my support, win, lose, or draw? I don't know where that line is. And it's to each his own. Some is financial for some of y'all. Sometimes you just don't want to deal with the heartache and the headache, and I get that. And I'm not telling anybody how to be a fan, but I don't know where that line is. But I will say, in my opinion, I don't like it when fans go, I'm not showing up until they win. Okay, cool. You're right. Your fandom, your kind of like my body, my opinion, or whatever they say. I don't know. You're a fan, your team, do whatever you want. But I feel like that's a bandwagon stance. That's like me, Bill Gunner, being like, well, I'm not going to pull for the Panthers until they're a winner. Not going to go. No. I'm on board or I'm not. 2 feet in, 2 feet out. Either or. I don't care. Be in, be out. Who cares? Pick one and go with it. If you're in for the Carolina basketball team, football team, a lot of you in for the Carolina football team, you go every year. You spend God knows how much money. You go do your tailgating, and I get it. It's an event. Football tailgate, to compare South Carolina football fans and South Carolina basketball fans or anything else is different, because football is a spectacle. It's a totally different animal than going to a basketball game. But I don't believe in, well, I'll pull for them when they win. I think that's the wrong attitude. And I think this basketball team, this brings me to my larger point. Why are you talking about this, Gunner? This basketball team needs your support. This basketball team is 10-5. Now, last night they won 78-68. All it means, and I've said this multiple times today, and I'm sorry if you've heard it multiple times. I do appreciate that you've listened for 2 consecutive hours if you've heard it multiple times. But this basketball team, what last night did is kept me personally, Bill Gunner, not you or not anybody else, invested in the program for this year. I didn't check out. I'm now more excited about Saturday and about Georgia and seeing what they can do. Can they build on it? Can they get to above 500 in conference? All of a sudden, is the shooting taking a turn? They come back home to a facility that they shoot at pretty much year-round, and they should be familiar with the rims and the gym. And so can they use that momentum to springboard to a little more success that then puts them on a different plateau and 2-1 in the conference, and now you feel a little bit better? Last night they jumped like 30, 25 spots, 30 spots. I don't keep up with the Ken Palm all that much because it's still early in the season, but they got up to about 88 last night. Decent start. They got to win several games. Ken Palm, for those of you wondering, is the ranking that they use for defining the NCAA tournament a little bit more now. But to my larger point on this is, like, I guess I'm stumping for and banging the drum for South Carolina fans to turn out in force on Saturday at 2:00 against Georgia, and to quote the one and only Bette Midler, to be the wind beneath their wings. Do with that as you may. Take that however you want to. But go be the wind beneath the basketball team's wings. And I say that with the softest voice I can muster. But go pull for them. Go support them. Those kids are playing hard, man. They haven't quit. Some of y'all have quit. If you heard me yesterday, you know that I was close. I'm not absolved of the situation. I was down on them yesterday. I got to take my medicine, but I'm pulling for them. And they need your support, too. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. Let's talk a little NFL. We don't talk enough NFL around here. Let's talk some Carolina Panthers. They're in the playoff. They deserve some love. We'll talk about that with Eric Edholm when we come back. You're listening to The Halftime Show.